What's up everyone? Today we're going to be finishing up the Sleepy Eye LED conversion on the Vette. I bought these lights off of Amazon. They are 7.5 inch with the RGB halo, and I'll have the link in the description so you can check them out. So we do have one side mostly finished, so that way we can check out the difference between the LED and the stock, and then we can check out the features of the actual LED light bar that I purchased. As you can see, the LED bar is much lower than the stock headlight. I feel like that gives it more of a sleek look, and it is also much brighter than the stock headlight. I don't know about you, but my headlights suck. So with the LED bar, you can control it two ways. You have the remote that you can control the headlight with. And you can also control the halo part. And then with the app, you can control different patterns for the halo, different colors for the halo, brightnesses, and all that good stuff. Now that we have seen the features of the light bar, let's check out the bracket that I made to hold it to the factory headlight mount. I wanted to keep the bracket as simple as possible so I could use the stock headlight motors, and also if I ever needed to, I could go back and put the stock headlights back on. All I did was I got a piece of 6-inch flat bar and I cut a 4-inch piece out of it. So this bracket is 6x4. I mounted it with 2 bolts to the stock headlight bracket, and I used the stock hardware supplied with the LED bar to mount it to this bracket. So now that we've seen how I did this side, let's go ahead and do it to the other side. The first thing I did was unplug the headlight motor, raise it all the way up. Next I'm going to remove the headlight bezel and the top headlight cover. That way we can get to the stock headlight. Once we have the top cover off, we can unplug the headlight and the brights, and then remove the 10mm bolts that are holding on the stock headlight. You have 2 10mm bolts on this side and 1 on the other side. With our headlight removed, we can go ahead and start mounting our piece of sheet metal. Like I said, I cut mine to 4 by 6 inches, and it fit pretty perfect inside of here. Once I have the piece of sheet metal cut, I just slide the sheet metal in, and I will set the headlight cover on top and then slide the sheet metal out to where it is at the edge of the headlight cover. That way I know where to drill the holes. With the headlight cover set on loosely, I'm going to slide the piece of sheet metal forward to the edge of the headlight bezel. That way we can get the LED bar mounted all the way to the edge flush here. So now that the bracket slid all the way flush here, I'm going to remove the cover without moving the sheet metal. Alright, now that we have the cover removed and the sheet metal in the spot it needs to be, I'm just going to add a mark here, so if it does get moved, we know exactly where to go back. And I have marked the screws holding this cover on, so when we put this back on, we'll put it in the same position so the cover's still adjusted properly for the hood and bumper and everything. So next step is I'm going to remove this cover, and we can install the bolts that hold the sheet metal on. As you can see underneath, it is not flat, so basically just using my finger to feel where a flat piece is at the bottom, and then mark it up top where we need to drill the holes in the plate to mount it. with these 2 bolt holes marked, we can now drill the holes and mount the piece of sheet metal to the stock headlight housing. Alright, so now I'm just going to tighten up the bolts. As you can see, I used this flat part of the stock headlight cover as a guide for the side of the sheet metal, and then I used the mark I had here to line it up lengthwise and then widthwise here. So once we get these tightened up, I'm gonna go ahead and stick the headlight cover back on. That way we can get the sheet metal mark to where the LED bar needs to go. Here's the LED light bar with the bracket that's supplied. So it has a bolt that goes into the top here, and that is what we'll use to bolt it to the sheet metal. So this is why it allows us to mount it to the top of the sheet metal like that, just the style of this mount. The mount is slotted, so we can adjust the headlight up and down. And since there's only 1 bolt on the top, we can adjust the headlight left and right to get it proper. So what I've done is put a small Sharpie mark here in the center of the headlight bezel, and I'm going to put the headlight inside here in the center, line it up to where it is in line with the headlight bezel, and then I will get the Sharpie and mark on the sheet metal to where the headlight needs to be mounted. And once we have that marked, I'll remove everything and drill the holes so the headlight can be bolted to the sheet metal. I have it marked for the hole, where I'm going to drill for the hole for the bracket. And on this side you can see I have it mounted, so I'll have adjustment sideways and up and down once we get them both bolted up and it's nighttime. So the cool thing is none of this really has to be perfect, you know. These could be 1/8 of an inch off and you're never going to notice from side to side, and then we can take that out with adjustment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill that hole, and then I'm going to get these sanded. I'm going to get them painted. It's been a little while since I worked on it, you can tell because they're rusted, but we'll get these painted up, and once that dries we'll get them mounted, and then we'll move on with the process of wiring. We have them both mounted and we have the bracket painted, and as you can see, still have them loose so we can adjust them. The first thing I've done, because I want them to stay sleepy eye at all time, I don't want the motors to actuate, is I unplugged the headlight control module. Mine I mounted right here on the frame because I had to cut everything out for my angle kit so my wheels didn't rub the wheel well. If I remember right, it was bolted right here in the wheel well that I no longer have. So I screwed mine to the frame right here. What I'm going to do, since it's unplugged and I don't want water and corrosion getting inside the plug, is I'm going to put some dielectric grease inside the plug of the module and on the harness. So if we ever want to go back to using the motor, we won't have any issues with corrosion. So these actually come with an on-off switch. I'm not going to use this on-off switch because I'm going to wire it to the headlight switch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this apart and I'm going to butt connector it inside of here, or solder it. Probably going to end up soldering it because of how small it's going to be. But I'm going to basically, it's just a 2-wire switch. So all you have to do is connect these 2 wires permanently, and then it'll always turn on with the headlight switch. And that saves us all of this wire. While I have it apart, as you can see, this box is not sealed very well. So since it's going to be in the engine bay, I'm going to silicone this box to protect this box from water and corrosion. Then we have our power and ground that power up this box. This is what's going to go to the headlight. What I've done is I went to Amazon and I bought 9005 male sockets, and all we have to do is unplug the headlight bulb, plug this plug in, and then wire our LED module to the headlight wiring. And that is what's going to allow us to turn them on and off with the headlight switch. We have the switch that I'm going to cut out. So all I'm going to do is cut this wire, cut these 2 wires, pull it through. So we have it in here. Strip the 2 wires. Sometimes these don't do well with small wire. Strip it a little more. We just gotta make these make contact, so we need the switch to be closed. Put a butt connector on it. Crimp it. And now we can just heat up the heat shrink to seal it, and then place it inside of here. And what I'm going to do is, when I close this box here, I'm going to silicone it so that it seals from water, because I don't have any wheel wells. So we're going to get a lot of water inside the engine bay, and I'm planning on mounting it over here near the fuse box. So we are going to get some water over here. I'm just going to go ahead and seal this box with some silicone. I have the box sealed. Next, I'm going to mount the box down here to the fuse box. I'm going to do that so that I can run all the wiring along the OEM harness, run it below the fuse box, and it can come out right here and go to the box. And then all the excess wires, because they send a lot of extra depending on where you're mounting it, I'm going to roll that up, and I can zip tie that to the wiring underneath here. That way it stays hidden. One thing I'm going to do with this wire running from the driver's side headlight is I'm going to run it down, and it's going to go along the OEM harness that goes to the headlight motor over here, and then it goes to the fan motors and everything. I'm going to zip tie this harness to the OEM harness. That way it'll come up clean, won't rub anything, and it'll look real nice. So that'll come along that harness and then to over here. And then with this one being so short, it'll run with the stock headlight harness here and come to the box. That's where we'll have a lot of excess that will zip tie up underneath this here fuse box cover. We have the box mounted here, the wires coming up underneath the fuse box, and here you can see that I tucked these wires, the extra wires from the headlights, up with the OEM wires. Out of sight, out of mind. Won't have those cluttering up the engine bay. And then we have them running with the OEM harness underneath the coolant reservoir. And I have them coming from this side. It's going underneath the headlight cover mount, I guess. And we'll zip tie it up. I don't have it zip tied yet because I'm gonna get my power from the headlight. So once I get that power ran from there, then I'll zip tie everything up nice here. Go underneath the car. And you can see I have it zip tied to the OEM harness. And coming up with the OEM harness, and I just zip tied the headlight and brights plugs out of the way. We'll go ahead and put some dielectric grease inside of those to prevent any corrosion in those. And then same with this side, I have the wire coming underneath the mount. So the only thing we have left is getting the power from the headlight bulb to the module. On my car, the white plug was the headlight and the blue one was the bright, so I went ahead and plugged the harnesses I have into the white plug. I'm just going to verify which one is positive and negative. I was reading some reviews that they had these the opposite. And let's see, try to get this in the frame. And yes, they have the black is power and red is negative. So good thing we checked that before we wired power to the module. So now basically all I need to do is connect 2 wires to this, run it over down here to the module, the 2 module wires, and then everything's gonna be wired in. Then we just gotta wait for it to get dark and we can adjust the headlights accordingly. Here you can see we have the power and ground ran underneath the fuse box, comes out over here, and we just have it plugged into the headlight plug, the white plug. So now we're ready to turn the headlights on and try it out. All right, with the headlights on, now we can turn them on, do whatever. And then turn on the beams. Sick. Now we just gotta wait for dark, see how bright they are, and adjust them, tighten them up, and put the covers back on. So all I did was disable the motors. If you wanted the motors to still work, all you would have to do is make a new stop for when they open up and have them stop where you need them to. But I don't really want them to function. I kind of like the look of the sleepy eye. So if that ever changes and I decide that I want them to open and close, all I have to do is plug that module back in and just make a new stop for the motor. Here you can see where the OEM stop was, these white stops. So you would just relocate the opening stop. But I'm gonna leave it a sleepy eye. I think it looks cool. Maybe. I mean, I haven't really seen it yet, but as of right now, all we gotta do is wait for it to get dark and check out how bright they are. So these are spotlights, not floodlights. So these will have a directed beam that I'll adjust, and they won't just shine and light up everything and blind people. So that's something to look into when buying them, but cool. Install's mostly done. Before we got everything finalized, of course I had to do a little test run Got the red, white, and blue. The flashes. Woo. Taillights. We got some more custom taillights coming, but that's a surprise. Sweet. There's also an app on your phone you can download and control the different colors. Change the color zone, change the modes. Let's see. Make them just purple, yellow, red. Different modes we can do. Let's see. All kinds of different modes. And then of course custom modes. That's where I got the red, white, and blue. Sweet. Last night we got the headlights adjusted. Checked them out from a distance. They didn't look too bright, like for cars coming at us. They're really bright, so I'll get some footage once I get the covers on of how bright they are at night facing out. But we got the brackets tightened, so we had the sideways adjustment with this bolt, and then up and down adjustment with those two bolts in there. We got to adjust it correctly. I didn't film any of that, that was kind of last minute. This boy over here made me do it, which I'm glad he did, because if he didn't, then it wouldn't have got done this weekend. But they're all adjusted, throw the covers on it, and then we'll test them out another night. What's up, Don? Now that it's nighttime, we can check them out. So when I turn the switch, they turn on. When I turn the switch off, they turn off. And then you can also control them with the remote. As you can see, they're pretty bright. I probably adjust them up a little bit. I faced them a little down because I was worried about blinding people. And then I adjusted the left headlight in a little bit because I didn't want to blind oncoming traffic. But the beam on them isn't too bad, so I can actually adjust them up and then have them shine a little further and not be able to blind anybody. So let's go ahead and check them out, how they look from the front. See, so I can face them up more to have them shine further, and they're never going to blind anybody, any oncoming traffic, so I won't constantly have people flashing their brights at me. But they're definitely brighter than the stock headlights, and then without the adjustment. So once I do the adjustments, that should help quite a bit. Let's see. So we have the flashing mode. That's gonna look sick while drifting. And then we have the RGB. See if I can see the dang remote to turn it on. On? On. Alright. So the RGB is actually pretty bright. There's the purple. And then here's the white. So just with the RGB, that's pretty bright. So let's see if we can get both in there. Of course, all the colors, all that good stuff. I will say the only thing I do not like is with this remote, you're limited to the mode you can do, of course, because the buttons, but you can only turn on the beams or the main lights with the remote. You cannot do that on the app. So it's pretty annoying that way. but you don't have to keep the remote with you because it saves your settings. So if I were to say, let's just do off, and then we'll turn the RGBs on purple. It saves your settings. So if I were to, you know, say just leave the headlight on, turn it off, and then next time I go to drive it, I turn it back on, it saves the settings. So we still have it on purple, but if you left the headlights on, it would just turn back on the headlights. Or if you want it to stay with purple and headlights all the time, it would save that setting. So when you turn the headlights off and turn them back on, you still got the same setting, which is pretty convenient. It just sucks that you can't use the app on your phone for the main beams or the LEDs. So, and one thing I was reading online is the customer service for these lights are not that great. So if you ever have any issues, you can't really get a hold of them. And then this here remote is almost impossible to find. So if you lose this remote, you're kind of screwed on turning on and off your main headlight. I did actually lose it for I think a month or two, and I couldn't find it. I don't even remember where it was at this point. I think it was in the seat cushion or something, and I was looking online forever trying to find this remote, and they were saying some remotes will work, but it's not guaranteed. So I had a couple of LED remotes for lights on my toolbox or something like that. I tried them, but I couldn't get them to come on. So definitely, if you get these, keep up with the remote, or you're gonna have to buy another set of headlights. But these were on Amazon and they were pretty cheap, so even if you had to buy another set for the remote, it really isn't that bad. As always, thanks for watching. I hope some of this was helpful for y'all. Maybe if even y'all aren't going with the same LED bars for the headlights, maybe these will help you with your install on your other ones. And if you like what you saw, of course, subscribe, like. You have any suggestions, let me know. And if you have any questions, just comment them down in the comment section and I'll be sure to answer them. Thanks for watching and stay tuned. Next videos we're gonna have are the rear-wheel drive swapped 5.0 Integra. We started some work on it, and the next video will be the overview of that car before we get started on it. So thanks.